Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 9th Lineal Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, the movie awards for the year 2022, and we now move into the people section of the movie awards. These are our awards for our best actors, actresses, and directors of 2022, but we are going to shuffle the deck this year a little bit, and we're going to start with the folks behind the camera, the directors, our best directors of 2022. So we're shuffling the deck specifically to do directors first because for me, this was a Justin executive decision because I felt like this year was as competitive for directors as I think I have ever had. And I've had some years where like the directing category has been fairly competitive. But as I've kind of personally expanded what I will kind of give a director credit for, or like look at elements of directing that I didn't really give as much credit to in the past, it makes it much more difficult for me to make these cuts for this award. So like, I mean, these are like, I have names that were late cuts that are just like in slightly worse years are easily on this list, potentially even in the top 3. Like Mark Mylod for The Menu, the team of, what was it, Scheinert and Kwan who did Everything Everywhere. Luca Guadagnino, who did Bones and All. Even if you don't love that movie, I think the way that movie's put together. Even something like Michael Bay did that Ambulance movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and did stuff. The stuff he did with drones and the way he did certain shots in that movie, it's just like, I've never seen this before.
I think he over-directed that.
I'm sure. I think he probably.
I think there was way too much of this going on.
Yeah,
but with that said, I like the movie.
Right.
I actually like the movie.
But as I've kind of expanded again, the way that like the stuff I'll give a director credit for, or go like, hey, that's something I've never seen before that looks so cool. So maybe a lot of it is visual, but at the same time, like there's folks that would have made the list in other years who got dropped off even the honorable mentions this year because it was so competitive.
Yeah, I'm caught up on this Michael Bay thing. I want to see the universe where you actually do put Michael Bay.
Right.
Because that's like a me moment right there. Just to be like, hey, guess what?
So the way that we do this award is we each give all 3 of our honorable mentions, and then we go back and forth and get opportunities to talk about these directors and these movies a little bit more in depth. So I'll start by giving my 3 honorable mentions. Tyler will do his 3 honorable mentions, and then we'll go back and forth. So my honorable mentions for Best Director in 2022 are Joseph Kosinski for Top Gun Maverick, David Leitch for Bullet Train, and Robert Eggers for The Northman. And again, any of those 3 could have very easily made it into a top 3 in a slightly, or even just in a different year. Just shuffle the deck.
One of them has before, right?
Yeah, David Leitch and Eggers.
Oh, has Leitch been in there?
Oh yeah, I've had Leitch in there before, and I've had Eggers in there before. Kosinski, I haven't, but so 2 of them have been.
He did 2
before.
movies this year. You must not have seen.
Kosinski did 2,
and he did Spiderhead, I think.
Oh, he did do Spiderhead. You're absolutely right. Yeah, no, I didn't see Spiderhead.
You didn't miss a lot.
But
it was okay. It was pretty good.
Fair enough.
You didn't miss much.
I put Kosinski on the list for Top Gun Maverick because of just how like unquestionably pretty and well shot that movie is, and for the fact that he very adeptly mimics, that first movie that was made, 36 years ago and looks pretty darn good for a movie that was made 36 years ago. And the way that he can kind of mirror that but update it for the modern audience, I just thought he did a fantastic job. And again, that movie's just top to bottom, the way that movie's put together is just so good. Everybody, of course, has praised the use of practical effects. David Leitch for Bullet Train obviously is just ultra stylish in almost everything that he does. That movie is entertaining from top to bottom, whether it's screenplay, the way it looks, the way it's put together, the fight scenes, the choreography. I feel like that movie is just so immaculately put together from top to bottom, and I'm a sucker for big stylish movies like that.
Yeah.
So I'm all, and a big stylish movie but within a relatively confined space, I think was kind of an interesting dichotomy, so I love what he did with that movie. And then Robert Eggers for The Northman, like tone for days. And it's like, you don't go to a Robert Eggers movie for historical accuracy, you go to it for the tone and the style and the Robert Eggers-ness of it all. You go for the atmosphere, and that's what he nailed it once again in The North. Whether you loved The Northman or not, right from the beginning of that movie, you have this cacophony of sound that is just constant throughout the entire movie, and it sets the tone for everything that you're seeing on screen, and I thought he did an immaculate job putting that movie together.
We've said this, or I said this, or maybe we both said it in previous years, that I always think that the writing lets down Robert Eggers' movies,
Yes.
but I never fault his directing. With that said, I wasn't as big a fan of this, even from a directorial perspective, but it was still good.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you on Top Gun, not that it's in mine. I probably maybe should have given it more consideration than I did, because really, even though I don't love the movie, it is hard to kind of deny the mastery of what it's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Bullet Train, I'll just add, because I don't think you said it, just got really good performances out of everyone. Just charming, not a lot of heavy lifting, which is a term I use a lot, but fun. Okay, so my 3 honorable mentions are Josephine Decker for The Skies Everywhere.
Okay.
Michael Giacchino for Werewolf by Night. And Park Chan-wook for Decision to Leave. Alright, so for Josephine Decker, I'm actually just going to read what I say here. The movie is more interesting visually than narratively. She's got a great style, even in the other 2 movies, especially Madeline's Madeline. I think that's what it's called. She adds a few layers of experimentation onto the proceedings. That's no different here. The film is beautiful, great usage of all kinds of colors, wonderful photography of the landscape, like the woods, flowers, etc. A general brightness and whimsy to it. She perfectly contrasts the message of the film with the visuals. While the main character struggles through grief, the general message is to learn to live again, and all around her is just astounding beauty. I really like that. I like how in she went to tell her story visually, even though the script itself kind of lets it down. And for Michael Giacchino, this guy kind of killed it all year, because here's the thing. This guy directed Werewolf by Night, which is one of the more visually interesting Marvel movies. Well, by the way, we're considering it, even though it's a special presentation, because there was a couple of those this year. We agreed that we'll consider them movies, even though they're kind of just a longer TV episode. But whatever, we counted it. But he killed it. You know what else he did this year? He did the soundtrack for the Batman.
Ooh,
which is one of my favorite soundtracks ever. He also did Thor: Love and Thunder and Lightyear, which I never saw. The guy's musical capabilities, and he did the soundtrack for Werewolf by Night, because that would be silly if he didn't do that.
Yeah, really. I
don't know, this is just excellent black and white photography. It has a nice old-timey feel. The lighting is great. There's this part where, the one girl, I think her name's Elsa or something, she's trapped in a cage with the Jack guy who's the werewolf, and he's transforming, and the way that it plays with the shadows and stuff, you see her it's totally an old school movie thing where you see her kind of down watching him, but you don't see him transforming, but you see the shadow behind her of him going rah!
Right.
And it's so good. It's one of the best shot scenes of the year by far.
Nice.
And then for Park Chan-wook, the editing, I know that he's we're not giving awards to editing, but he had say in it, and the directing, the cinematography are the stars of this movie. The way that scenes transition from one another is just super inspired. There's very strong visual storytelling here. For example, whenever he's piecing together evidence, instead of just showing the evidence playing out, the detective is an observer in it, which shows how invested he is in the case. Handles the time hopping parts of the movie really well. That movie was getting a lot of love
And we've talked about Chan-wook Park on this awards before, I believe, and I think we're both in agreement and in acknowledgement that that's a pretty massive talent. Like that's a pretty talented director right there. My number 3 best director of 2022 is Ty West. So Ty West did both Pearl and X. Yes. We of course only thought it was going to be X, and then turns out, spoilers, I filmed a whole other movie. Yeah, so here's Pearl. And so we agreed at one point earlier this year, basically to treat those as one movie. Because we knew about X, we didn't know about Pearl until the release happened or shortly before the release. And we're like, well, one is just a character backstory from this one, so we're just going to treat this as one entity. So for our purposes in the movie awards, it's always Pearl/X. So Ty West did what I think are 2 pretty immaculately put together for this genre. And I can understand, because there's a lot of people that I think that don't love at least one of these movies. I did myself a favor, I think, and watched Pearl first. So I didn't watch these by release, I watched them by timeline. So I watched Pearl first, so I had the backstory of that character, and then watched X. Because I feel like if you watch X first, there's elements of that aren't earned. But I think if you watch Pearl first and get the character's backstory, then more of it is earned. Visually, I think these movies are both excellent. I would have appreciated maybe some higher quality kills, especially in X. I think there was more that could have been done with that. But Ty West is a very talented director, and I've liked other things that they've done. I think they got incredible performances, I should say, from Mia Goth in both of those movies. Yeah. I think Mia Goth was excellent. Yeah. I think maybe more could have been done with the ensemble that was around them. But again, I'm nitpicking 2 movies that I really, really exceptionally enjoyed, and I think Ty West got almost the most out of the collection of 2 movies that they could. That's why they wound up number 3, and again, I think it really benefited from watching them in reverse chronological order from how they were released.
I wish I could go back and see it that way.
Just to tack on to the end here about Ty West, more so in Pearl than in X, they used the continuous shot gimmick here and there, and I thought that was really well done. Again, more so in Pearl than in X, and I really liked the way that they were able to juxtapose, like Pearl is delusional. Yeah. Delusional throughout that entire movie, right? So delusional. But I love the way that Ty West juxtaposes these beautiful delusions with the reality of what Pearl is actually living in. I love the juxtaposition of that too, and that's obviously a very intentional, creative choice. So again, there were a lot of little things about this that added up to a really enjoyable whole directorial performance for those 2 movies. What did you want to add?
I consider Ty West in mine because the thing is, it's hard to deny 2 well-made movies in 1 year. Right. That's we don't often get. I know technically we're including them as one, but that also is technically a body of work thing. You don't get many director body of work, so they usually just do the one movie. So it's really I really got to put some emphasis on that when I'm making my list. I'm like, man, this person made 2 movies and they're both shot well. The reason I cut West from mine was I thought that both of them tried a little too hard visually.
Visual, okay.
But that's the reason why. Now this Ty West might have been 7th, 8th, 9th if we would have went top 10 would have been on there. So my number 3 is Damien Leone for Terrifier 2.
Oh, okay.
So
you're making one person very happy.
Hey, Robbie. So here's the thing, right? Love or hate that movie, there's something that I think needs to be accepted. Directorially, it's good. It's low budget, though not as low budget as some horror movies, like Paranormal Activity, wasn't it $10,000?
Yeah,
before marketing and stuff.
Or something.
There was a massive marketing budget behind that, though, I think. But this was, I think it was $250,000 It does have some of that low-budget griminess, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I actually think he does frame shots, like, super well. Like, he films specifically Art the Clown in a way that makes him look really menacing. The performances, there's some hokiness. The kid, the little brother, can be a little hokey at times, but by and large, the acting was good. But one of the reasons why I really give credit to this is this guy did pretty much everything. I think he had a cinematographer that did, like, the technical aspects, so that's what... But the practical effects, which, again, people can love or hate, but for a $250,000 horror movie, the special effects look awesome. The prosthetics look awesome. And he did that.
Wow.
Because I've listened to him talk about it, and he said he was going to get some help, but then at the last minute, the people coming in to help couldn't.
Oh.
They're like, we're not doing it. So he's like, I guess I'm doing it myself. And I think he might have, like, one guy or something help him. I don't know the exact story. But he made a really good-looking movie and directed it well. Like, so I have to show love to him, because this guy, I didn't know who this guy was.
Absolutely.
Right? And, you know, crappy horror movies are a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, we're gonna get some blood and it's gonna splatter, and there's certainly a lot of that in Terrifier too. But it's done so well, and yeah, you could pick at little things and be like, oh, this looks a little cheap, but it is, and yet it still looks well beyond its budget.
Wow.
So I'm actually quite impressed by Leone, and I think that this dude, I mean, this guy's obviously gonna make Terrifier 3 and stuff, but I think this guy has, like, a serious career in horror, specifically if he keeps doing horror, which I'm assuming he will, because I think he's a massive horror. You know, he wants to do a Friday the 13th movie. Anyway, Damien Leone is my number 3 best director of the year, and that does bring me some joy.
Yeah, I mean, God, if you're gonna reboot, there's been enough bad horror reboots in the last couple of years. You might as well try to make one that's good and make one with a competent director. Yeah. So I like that. I like that a lot. And I like the chutzpah you used behind that too. Like I like the passion that you've got for again, a director that up until this point you had no idea he existed.
He did super well. I gotta give it to the guy.
Absolutely. My number 2 best director of 2022 is Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah! McDonagh!
Missed it. That's okay, though.
We kind of got it. We got it a little bit right here.
So, look, the McDonaghs are immensely talented directors, both of them. And what I don't think you could tell this story, and I literally just watched this movie last night. I don't think there are but a handful of directors who have ever worked who could tell this particular story the way Martin McDonagh did.
Right.
Or to the level of quality that Martin McDonagh did. Because this could very easily, and a lot of other directors would have gone this route of looking at, okay, the audience is gonna like one particular character more than the other one because they're the funny one. So let's go the funny route.
Yeah.
Because audience like funny. And that's not what this story is supposed to be. And I feel like it took someone with a steady hand like Martin McDonagh to tell a story like this that, yes, it has its moments of levity. It can't help but have its moments of levity based on where it's located. Like, just the way of life in the place that you're located. And let's go, we're going beyond kind of the technical aspects of this. Like, this movie's beautiful. Yeah. Like, this movie is shot so exceptionally well, and it uses some people could call it the modest backgrounds that it has, because it is literally just on this little island. And Martin McDonagh uses that to make this just beautiful, beautiful looking movie set in this real little tiny spot. And there's so few directors that I think could have made this movie as well as this director did. So Martin McDonagh was my number 2. Maybe it suffers, maybe it's a little recency bias because I literally just watched it, but if this was less of a movie, it probably wouldn't have got there.
So you say that your number 2 is potentially recency bias. Well, I saw it a while ago, and it's also my number 10.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm on record on previous movie awards, I think even the mid-years, and I've said this to you in person. I actually think the strength of the McDonoughs is the writing. I think they're the best writers. Maybe the best writers working. I love their dialogue. I love the way they interweave, like, black comedy with some real drama. Like, man, when they're at their best. Obviously, his brother was not at his best this year, but he has done some fantastic stuff. But this is, like, I mean, Three Billboards was also, like, good directing, but I don't think I gave him a nod. It was good. It was fine. It's foundationally very solid. But this was maybe the first time where I looked at the directing. I thought, man, okay. Like, this is beautiful. Like, the way he uses distance to call attention to the distance between the two characters is fantastic. And I've kind of become annoyed by, like, directors who think it's okay to just be like, okay, I got this nice shot. I'm just going to sit the camera down. You're going to look at this shot for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm exaggerating, but this can be done well. I mean, Andrei Tarkovsky made these long-ass shots where barely anything happened, but I was okay. He kind of drew you in. Now, he doesn't go full-blown 5 minutes, but he does it occasionally, but it works. And this movie, in all the best ways possible, reminds me of two different things. He reminds me of Ingmar Bergman, still having his own style and personality, but there's, like, some serious, like, Seventh Seal shit going on here. And he reminds me of his brother in a previous movie, Calvary, with also Brendan Gleeson in it. Who, man, Gleeson and Colin Farrell, actually. But Gleeson is a match made in heaven for these two.
Yes.
So, like, it's funny because his, like, probably his best movie also reminds me of his brother's best movie. So it's like, hell yeah. Like, apparently they just got to do this stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I'm very pleased that you love this. I'm very happy. This is our first consensus of the year, and I couldn't be more pleased that it's a McDonough brother, honestly, because I will sing the praises of these dudes.
Since we had consensus on the number 2, I will move on to my number 1.
It's going to be a consensus.
Best director of 2022. He smells it. It's Matt Reeves for the Batman.
Matt Reeves is number 1. Two consensuses in a row.
I don't know that we've ever had that before.
We haven't.
So it's nice that in a year where I looked at the director category as competitive, if not more, than it's ever been for me, the fact that we could do something that we've never done before, which is have back-to-back consensi in an award. So, I am a homer for Matt Reeves anyway.
Yeah.
I already thought Matt Reeves was a genius.
I'm a homer for Batman.
And he's a homer for Batman, exactly.
But I also like Matt Reeves a lot.
What a great marriage.
Yeah,
what a great marriage. Batman in this movie and Gotham City in this movie are as dark and hard-hitting and gritty as everybody kind of expected, in a weird way as everyone feared that it would be, coming in as like, oh, you know, if it's too dark, it's going to alienate the audience, and Matt Reeves is like, nah, I got this. Don't worry about it. Trust me, it's going to be exactly what it needs to be, and it was exactly what it needed to be. Yeah. The character was exactly what he needed to be as, I guess, year 2 Batman?
Yeah, I think it was year 2.
Basically. Is exactly what that character needed to be. Gotham City as a background is exactly what it needed to be. You got the performances pitch perfect to what they needed to be for the setting of this movie. It was insulated with an excellent supporting cast around, again, a Batman that not everybody was sold on. You heard that, you just heard the name of Robert Pattinson, and you went like, oh God, what are they doing? Matt Reeves is a genius. An abject genius. I'm going to let you go on.
Pattinson was fine. Patman. I
don't like him above Batfleck. I like Batfleck more than
so do I. Okay, so I'm gonna... it's weird because I'm gonna, like, crap on the pick a little bit, even though he's still my number 1. acting is a part of a director's job.
Yes.
I don't think any of the performances are bad. I think they're good. Dano was great. Pattinson is a great actor. I just don't absolutely adore him as Batman. But for this universe, he does well. So, if there's a weakness of the Batman, it's the acting. But that's fine all across the board. However, I'll still give him number one because visually, it is easily the star of the movie. The way he uses lighting, like the fight scene where he turns off the power and he comes down the elevator and the whole scene is only lit up by gunfire. Mm-hmm. And it's like, doom, and the music, which is like the GOAT soundtrack, I don't care, come at me. That's going off and you just see him flashes in the dark and stuff. That's beautiful. Yeah. Everything about that movie is like darkly beautiful. And it's a star. It is. Reeves, for as great as the plot is, and even as great as the GOAT soundtrack is, I still think Reeves is the star of that.
And actually, it's funny that you highlight that scene in particular, because that concept of like a face or a body or whatever kind of just being lit up by gunfire is one that he explored in War for the Planet of the Apes. Because you have that scene where it's very dark and all you can see is this feral monkey, this feral ape, that's only lit up by the gunfire. You got a taste of that scene in that, and then it got turned up to 11 in the Batman.
That was serious contender for best cinematic beatdown in mine. Let's go through another scene. The end conflict where he comes through the ceiling.
Yeah.
And the music, and then it's like, and then he jumps down. It's beautiful. So as much as I adore that movie, I actually wish there was a few more fight scenes because they were so great. I know he was going down a more detective Batman route, which is great. That's fine. It was a great story. But the fight scenes were so good that I wanted to see more. Reeves is a master.
I would be very happy, and I haven't specifically looked into this. I don't know how many more of these Reeves Batman movies we're gonna get. I want at least 2 more.
Yeah, like, I want a solid trilogy.
A solid trilogy at the bare minimum.
But this is one of those situations where I will take more.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I was telling him off screen, like earlier today, that I don't want to see James Cameron do Avatar movies for the rest of his career. I'd actually be okay with Reeves doing Batman movies for the rest of his career. Because he's given me exactly what I want from Batman. That's a good pick, Justin.
That's a great pick, Tyler. Wow, 2 back-to-back consensus picks. And once again, for those of you that don't know this, we don't talk about this stuff beforehand. Like, this is the genuine surprise of who gets picked where in the movie awards is like, it's the cost of admission for us. At the bare minimum, we're going to get those moments where like, oh man, I can't believe you loved this much, or oh, that's an interesting pick, or oh, I didn't even know you saw that, or you get those moments. So we got back-to-back consensus picks to close out the director video, which is super cool. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to be exploring our best actors of 2022.